she whispered. Still want me? He answered by pulling her even closer. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. The next day, Emma sat at her small kitchen table, a cup of coffee in hand, staring at her phone. The message from Liam still lingered in her inbox. The words, "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd really like to see you again. Coffee sometime," blinking at her like an invitation to something unknown. She had been trying to ignore it all morning, but her curiosity kept getting the better of her. Could she really meet him again? Was this just some weird coincidence or something more? It wasn't like her to second-guess herself, but something about the night before felt different. She had never met anyone like Liam before. She didn't even know what it was about him that made her feel this way. He wasn't like the men she normally met, polished, stiff, and quick to judge. He had made her feel at ease, even when she had completely messed up. But was it enough to meet again? With a deep breath, Emma typed out a quick reply. Hi Liam, this is Emma. I'd love to meet for coffee. How about tomorrow afternoon? She hit send before she could change her mind. She felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness bubbling in her chest. This was a risk, but maybe it was one worth taking. After sending the message, she put the phone down and tried to focus on her day. The hours passed, and soon it was time for their coffee date. Emma stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. She didn't want to overdo it, but she didn't want to look like she hadn't put any effort in either. Eventually, she settled on a simple sweater and jeans. Nothing too fancy, but comfortable. She quickly grabbed her bag and left her apartment, walking to the small cafe they had agreed to meet at. As she entered, she immediately spotted him sitting at a corner table. Liam looked relaxed, dressed in a button-down shirt and jeans, his laptop open in front of him. He looked up as she approached, his face lighting up with that same warm smile that had made her feel so comfortable the night before. Hey, Emma, he said, standing up to greet her. It's great to see you again. Emma smiled nervously. Yeah, I'm glad we could meet up. They sat down, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. It was a strange, quiet silence, but it was also comfortable. No awkwardness this time. Liam finally broke the silence, his voice light. So, tell me more about this art studio you want to open. I'm really curious. Emma felt a rush of relief that he was genuinely interested in her dreams. She had always been hesitant to talk about her art, afraid it might sound silly or naive. But Liam was different. He listened intently as she explained her passion for painting, her dream of having a place where young artists could express themselves. That sounds amazing, Liam said when she finished. I think it's important to have a space like that. His words made her heart swell. She had been so used to people dismissing her dreams or telling her to be more realistic. But Liam seemed to understand. And what about you? She asked, leaning forward a little. What's your story? Liam paused, and for a moment, he seemed lost in thought. It's not as exciting as yours, he said with a smile. I work in tech. I've been building companies for a while now. It's not exactly the most glamorous job, but it keeps me busy. Emma nodded, feeling a sense of connection as they talked more about their careers and aspirations. There was no judgment in his eyes, no pretense. Just two people, talking honestly. After their coffee, they went for a walk in the park nearby. The conversation flowed easily, and Emma found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. She told Liam about her childhood, how she grew up in a small town, and how her mother had always encouraged her to pursue her art. Liam shared some of his own childhood memories about his family, and how he had always felt the pressure of being successful. As they walked, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was starting to understand him, and yet, she still had no idea who he really was. She had learned so much about his passions, but nothing about his life outside of work. There was something mysterious about him, something that kept her wanting to know more. But just as they were talking, Emma's phone buzzed in her bag. She glanced at the screen. It was a message from Jenny. Hey, how did it go with Liam? I'm dying to hear. Emma smiled to herself, but before she could respond, Liam looked over at her, his expression unreadable. So, what's the deal with you and Kevin? He asked, casually, but there was a hint of curiosity in his voice. Emma froze for a moment, feeling caught off guard. She hadn't expected him to bring up Kevin so soon. She thought about lying, but something about Liam's honest demeanor made her want to be upfront. Kevin wasn't exactly what I was expecting, she said slowly. He seemed nice, but I guess we didn't really click. Liam nodded, his eyes softening. I get it, he said quietly. Sometimes people just aren't who we think they are. His words hit her harder than she expected. He was right. It wasn't just Kevin who hadn't been what she expected, it was everything. Her life, her choices, her dreams. And yet, in that moment, standing there with Liam, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was about to change. The days following Emma's coffee date with Liam felt like a strange blend of excitement and confusion. She couldn't get the conversation out of her head. It wasn't just the chemistry between them, but the way he listened, the way he didn't judge her for her dreams, for the messiness of her life. Every time she thought about him, it felt like she was on the edge of something big, something that might change everything. She found herself checking her phone more often than she should, hoping for another message from him. But it wasn't just his words that stayed with her. It was the way he had opened up, in his quiet, calm way. He wasn't the typical guy she was used to. She had expected someone polished, someone with a game plan. But with Liam, it was different. And it left her wondering, what was he really like outside of their brief encounters? What was it about him that made her feel both comfortable and nervous at the same time? One evening, a week after their coffee date, Emma sat at her desk, sketching ideas for her art studio. Her mind kept drifting to Liam. She couldn't help it. He had become a part of her thoughts, a part of her routine. Just as she was about to turn in for the night, her phone buzzed with a message. Hey Emma, this is Liam. I know this might be a bit sudden, but I was wondering if you'd like to join me for a charity event this weekend. I think you'd really enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Emma's heart skipped a beat. A charity event? She hadn't expected that, but something about it felt right. It was an invitation to something more, to see another side of him. She smiled to herself as she typed back, I'd love to. Sounds like fun. Her fingers hovered over the phone for a moment before she sent the message, unsure if she was ready to dive deeper into whatever was happening between them, but at the same time, feeling like she couldn't resist. Saturday came faster than she expected. She stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. The charity event was at an upscale venue, and she didn't want to feel out of place, but she also didn't want to overdo it. She finally settled on a simple black dress, one she felt confident in. As she arrived at the venue, her nerves were a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. The large glass doors opened into a grand ballroom filled with elegantly dressed people, the soft glow of chandeliers illuminating the space. It was a far cry from the diner where Emma worked. She took a deep breath, adjusting her clutch as she walked in. The sound of laughter, glasses clinking, and soft chatter filled the air, but Emma felt a sense of discomfort, as if she were standing in the middle of a world that wasn't quite hers. As she scanned the room, she spotted Liam across the way, talking to a small group of people. He was dressed in a sharp suit, his presence commanding but approachable. When he saw her, his face lit up, and he made his way over. You made it, he said with a smile. I'm so glad you're here. Emma couldn't help but smile back. There was something so effortless about his charm, about how at ease he seemed in a place like this. Thanks for inviting me, she replied, trying to sound casual, even though her heart was racing. They spent the evening together, talking and laughing, with Liam introducing her to people from his world. The more time they spent together, the more Emma realized how much she liked being around him. There was a sense of warmth in his presence, a calm that soothed her nerves. As the night wore on, Emma found herself enjoying the conversations, even with people she wouldn't normally have much in common with. There was something about Liam that made her feel like she belonged, even in this unfamiliar setting. She was just beginning to feel at home when, suddenly, the host of the event took the stage to announce a special guest. Please welcome, Liam Parker, the host said, and the room erupted into applause. Emma froze for a moment, her mind racing. Liam? The same Liam she had been having coffee with? The same one who had listened to her dreams like they were the most important thing in the world? Liam stood up, giving a modest wave to the crowd. Emma watched him as he walked to the front of the room, his confident stride a sharp contrast to the quiet, thoughtful man she had gotten to know. She couldn't help but feel a sense of awe, mixed with confusion. How could someone like him, someone who seemed so grounded, be part of this high society world? But then, as she watched him speak, she saw the same sincerity in his eyes, the same warmth that had drawn her to him in the first place. He was still Liam, no matter what the crowd thought of him, and that realization brought her a sense of peace. He wasn't just a tech millionaire. He was someone who cared about the world around him, about helping others. And in that moment, Emma knew that whatever this was between them, it was real. Later that evening, as the event wound down, Liam walked over to her with a smile. "What do you think?" he asked. Emma smiled back, feeling the weight of the evening settle in. I think I'm glad I came," she said. "It's been a great night." He reached out and took her hand gently. "I'm glad you came too," he said quietly. The connection between them was undeniable now, stronger than ever. And as they stood there, amidst the fading noise of the event, Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the next step. The next chapter of her life was waiting, and it was going to be full of surprises. The following week, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more than she had ever expected. Their connection seemed to grow stronger every time they met, and the more time they spent together, the more she realized how much she admired him. But it wasn't just his wealth or his success that drew her in. It was his genuine kindness, his quiet confidence, and the way he made her feel like she mattered. She had never been the type to get attached easily, but with Liam, it felt different. It felt real. One evening, after another long day at the diner, Emma sat in her small apartment, sketching out more ideas for her art studio. Her phone buzzed on the counter, interrupting her focus. She glanced at it, a smile forming on her face when she saw Liam's name on the screen. "Hey Emma, I was wondering if you'd like to join me for dinner tomorrow night. It's been a while since we've had a chance to talk without any distractions," his message read. Her heart skipped a beat. Dinner with Liam again? It was a simple enough invitation, but something about it made her nervous. They had shared coffee, a charity event, but dinner felt more personal. She quickly typed back, "I'd love to. Where should we meet?" The next night, Emma stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of her jacket, trying to decide if it looked good enough for a dinner date with someone like Liam. It wasn't that she cared about impressing him, but there was a part of her that wanted to feel like she belonged in his world, even though it still felt like a foreign place. She settled on a simple dress and a jacket, feeling a bit more confident as she left her apartment. When she arrived at the restaurant, a cozy Italian place on the corner of the street, she was greeted by the familiar sound of clinking glasses and low conversations. It was an intimate setting, perfect for a quiet dinner, and Liam was already waiting for her at a table near the window. He looked up as she entered, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Hey, you made it," he said with a smile, standing up to pull out her chair. "I'm glad you could join me." Emma smiled, taking a seat across from him. "Thanks for inviting me," she said, feeling a flutter of nerves in her stomach. They both sat down, and the waiter handed them menus. The conversation started casually, just small talk about the day, but Emma could feel a shift in the air as the evening went on. There was something different about this dinner, something more intimate. They ordered their food, and as the night wore on, they slipped into a deeper conversation. Emma found herself sharing more than she ever thought she would with him. She talked about her family, her struggles growing up, her passion for art, and how she had always dreamed of creating a space for young artists to thrive. Liam listened intently, his eyes focused on her, his expression soft. "I think that's incredible," Liam said after a pause, his voice sincere. "You have such a unique vision, Emma. I really believe you'll make it happen. You just need the right opportunity." The words hit Emma harder than she expected. It wasn't just the compliment. It was the belief he had in her. For someone like Liam, who had achieved so much, to think she had the potential to do something big, it meant more than she could express. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice filled with emotion. "I don't always feel like I'm on the right path, but when I hear someone like you say that, it gives me hope." Liam smiled, reaching across the table to gently place his hand over hers. "You're already on the right path," he said softly. "You just have to believe in yourself, the way I believe in you." Emma's heart raced as she looked into his eyes. There was no doubt now. There was something real between them, something deeper than she had expected. But as much as she wanted to believe it, a part of her still hesitated. She had never been in a relationship like this, Never been with someone who had so much at stake, someone who lived in a world so different from hers. Liam seemed to sense her hesitation. He leaned back slightly, his hand still on hers. You don't have to have all the answers right now, Emma. I'm not asking you to have it all figured out. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words. It wasn't about him being a millionaire or CEO. It was about the way he made her feel valued, the way he made her believe in herself. As the night drew to a close, they stood up from the table, and Liam walked her to the door. I'll walk you home, he said, offering his arm. Emma hesitated for a moment, but then took it, feeling a sense of warmth spread through her. They walked down the quiet street, the soft hum of the city surrounding them. Emma felt a mixture of emotions, excitement, nervousness, and something else she couldn't quite place. But as they reached her apartment building, Liam stopped and turned to face her. Emma, he said softly, his voice earnest. I know this is all new, but I want you to know that I'm really glad we met. You're someone special, and I want to get to know you better. No pressure, just, I wanted you to know that. Emma looked up at him, her heart full. I'm glad we met too, Liam. They stood there for a moment, neither of them saying anything, but the connection between them was undeniable. Liam leaned in slightly, his gaze soft but intent. Good night, Emma, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Good night, she replied, her heart racing as she watched him walk away. As she entered her apartment, Emma couldn't help but smile. Something had shifted between them that night, something that couldn't be undone. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe she was on the verge of something incredible. The days that followed were filled with a sense of anticipation that Emma couldn't shake off. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart would skip a beat, hoping it was a message from Liam. They had met a few times since that dinner, each time growing closer, but it was always under the surface, that quiet voice in her head, asking if she was ready to let her guard down. Liam had been nothing but kind, thoughtful, and open with her, but Emma wasn't used to being the center of someone's attention, especially someone with so much to offer. One evening, as Emma sat at her desk, sketching out some new ideas for her art studio, the phone buzzed again. It was a message from Liam. Hey Emma, would you like to join me this weekend for a quiet dinner? I know you've been really busy with everything going on with your studio, but I thought we could have some time to just talk. No pressure, just a night off from all the chaos. She smiled at the message, her heart warming. He always seemed to know just what to say. A night off from the chaos sounded like exactly what she needed, especially with everything she was juggling. But a part of her hesitated, unsure if she was ready for the kind of connection that Liam seemed to be offering. Was she ready to open up, to really trust someone again? After a moment of contemplation, she typed her reply. I'd love to. Let me know when and where. Liam's response was quick, and before she knew it, they had made plans for Saturday evening. Emma spent the rest of the week thinking about it, but she tried not to overthink it too much. After all, it was just dinner, just a chance to unwind and have a conversation. No big deal, right? Saturday arrived, and Emma found herself once again standing in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. She chose a simple but elegant dress, something she could wear comfortably and still feel good about. She didn't want to go overboard, but she didn't want to seem like she hadn't put in any effort. She was meeting Liam, after all, and something about him made her want to put her best foot forward. When she arrived at the restaurant, a cozy little bistro Liam had picked, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. It wasn't the kind of upscale venue they had gone to before, but it was intimate, warm, and inviting. Liam was already there, sitting at a table by the window. His smile greeted her the moment she stepped inside, and she couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement as she walked toward him. Hi, Emma, Liam said, standing up to greet her. I'm so glad you could make it. Of course, Emma replied, smiling. This place looks perfect. They sat down, and the waiter handed them the menus. The conversation started off easy, as they talked about the week, about how Emma was making progress with her art studio and how Liam had been busy with his work. But there was something different about tonight. It felt more personal, more intimate. As the conversation shifted to more meaningful topics, Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't before. She told Liam about her childhood, about how she had always been the dreamer in her family, the one who saw the world differently. She talked about how her mother had always encouraged her to follow her passions, even when it wasn't easy. I never realized how much my mom's support meant until I was older, Emma said softly, her eyes downcast for a moment. She always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Liam listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers. That's really special, he said quietly. It's rare to have someone like that in your life. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't used to talking so openly about her family, but with Liam, it felt natural. There was no judgment, no pressure, just a safe space where she could be herself. As the night went on, they shared more about their lives, their dreams, and their fears. Emma could feel the connection between them growing stronger, and yet, a small voice in the back of her mind still hesitated. Was she really ready to let someone in? Liam must have sensed her hesitation because he paused, looking at her with a soft expression. You know, Emma, I've really enjoyed getting to know you. You're not like anyone I've met before. And I like that. Emma's heart skipped a beat. I feel the same way, she said quietly, her voice filled with sincerity. Liam smiled, a hint of something deeper in his eyes. I'm glad to hear that, he said softly. I think we're both looking for something real, something that's not just about the surface. I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Emma looked at him, her heart racing. The sincerity in his words, the way he looked at her, it was all so genuine. She wasn't used to this kind of connection, to someone caring this much. But maybe it was time to take a chance. Maybe it was time to let someone in. As they finished dinner, Liam walked her to her car. Thank you for tonight, Emma, he said softly. I really enjoyed our time together. Me too, Emma replied, her voice filled with warmth. It was exactly what I needed. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. Emma felt a quiet peace settle over her. Maybe this was the beginning of something real. Maybe she was ready to take that next step. Good night, Emma, Liam said, his voice soft as he leaned in slightly. Good night, she whispered, her heart pounding in her chest as she watched him walk away. As she drove home that night, Emma couldn't help but feel like something had changed. She wasn't sure where this would go, but she knew one thing for certain. Liam had opened something inside of her that she hadn't realized was closed. And for the first time in a long time, she was ready to see where this journey would take her. The following days felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and the connection they had shared. After that dinner, something had shifted in her heart. It wasn't just the warm smiles or the casual conversations, but the way Liam had looked at her, like he truly saw her. It made her wonder if she had been closing herself off all this time, afraid to let someone in, afraid to believe in something real. But now, with Liam, it felt different. He wasn't just another guy. He was someone who made her feel like she was worth something. As much as Emma wanted to let her guard down, a part of her still hesitated. She had been hurt before, had trusted people who didn't deserve it, and she didn't want to go down that road again. But with Liam, it was different. Every time they spoke, she felt like she was seeing a side of him that no one else saw, and it made her want to be vulnerable with him, to open up in a way she never had before. It was a Saturday afternoon when Liam sent her another message. Hey, Emma, I've been thinking about something. There's this art exhibit opening next weekend, and I thought it would be a great way for us to spend some time together. What do you think? Emma smiled as she read the message. Another invitation. Another opportunity to spend time with him. She quickly typed back, I'd love to. That sounds like a great idea. She had always loved art, and the idea of experiencing it with Liam made her heart race with anticipation. The week passed quickly, and before she knew it, the day of the exhibit arrived. Emma spent the morning getting ready, choosing a simple but elegant outfit. A soft blue dress that she thought would look nice, but still be comfortable. She wanted to look good, but not overdone. She wanted to be herself, just as she had been when they first met. When she arrived at the gallery, she was surprised by how much she enjoyed the atmosphere. The soft lighting, the quiet hum of people chatting, the way the artwork filled the space. It was all so peaceful. Liam was already there, waiting for her near one of the larger paintings, his expression thoughtful as he studied the piece. When he saw her, his face lit up, and she couldn't help but smile. Hey, Emma, Liam said, his voice warm. I'm glad you could make it. There's something about art that always helps me clear my mind. Emma nodded in agreement. It's like a different world in here, she said. I love how every piece tells a story, even if it's just in the colors or the brushstrokes. They spent the next few hours walking through the gallery, discussing the pieces they liked, the ones they didn't understand, and the emotions they felt as they looked at each piece. It felt so natural, so easy, like they had known each other for years instead of just a few weeks. As they made their way to a smaller room in the back of the gallery, Liam stopped in front of a painting that Emma had passed by earlier. It was a beautiful abstract piece, full of bold colors and chaotic shapes. To Emma, it looked like a storm trapped inside a frame, but there was something about it that intrigued her. "This one's my favorite," Liam said, his eyes locked on the painting. "It reminds me of life, messy, unpredictable, but beautiful in its own way." Emma stepped closer, studying the painting. "I see that. It's like there's so much emotion in it, so much movement. But it's hard to explain." Liam turned to her, his gaze soft but intense. "That's the thing about art," he said. "It doesn't always need to be explained. It just has to make you feel something." They stood there for a moment, both of them lost in thought, the weight of the painting and their shared silence hanging in the air. It felt like an intimate moment, one that Emma wasn't sure she was ready for, but one that felt too real to ignore. "I'm glad we're doing this," Emma said quietly, looking up at Liam. "Spending time together, I mean." Liam smiled, his expression tender. "Me too, Emma. You're really easy to be around. I feel like I can just be myself with you." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't used to hearing those words, not from someone like Liam. But in that moment, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe it. Maybe she was starting to believe in them. As they continued to walk through the gallery, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settling in her chest. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, Liam was the person she had been waiting for all along. After the exhibit, they walked outside, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a blanket. Liam reached for her hand, his fingers brushing against hers, and for a moment, Emma felt like everything in her life had led her to this point, to this connection. She wasn't sure what the next step would be, but she knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened, she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. "Thanks for today, Liam," she said, looking up at him. "I really needed this." "Anytime, Emma," Liam replied, his voice soft but sincere. "I'm always here." As they walked down the street together, Emma knew that this was just the beginning. There was still so much to learn, so much to discover. But for now, all that mattered was the moment they were sharing and the connection that was growing between them. It felt real, and that was enough. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's connection only grew stronger. Their time together was always effortless, filled with laughter, deep conversations, and moments of silence that felt perfectly comfortable. Emma found herself looking forward to each new day, eager to see Liam again, but at the same time, a small part of her couldn't shake the lingering doubts. She had never let herself become this close to someone, especially someone as successful and seemingly perfect as Liam. She had been through enough heartache to know that people with wealth and status could easily disappear when things got tough, and Emma wasn't sure she was ready for that kind of vulnerability again. One evening, after they had spent a relaxing day together at a local park, Emma found herself sitting on her couch, a cup of tea in her hands, staring at her phone. She had received a text from Jenny. "How's everything with Liam? You guys seem to be getting closer." Emma smiled softly at the message. Jenny had been her best friend for years, and Emma had shared the ups and downs of her life with her, including the awkwardness of her early days with Liam. But now it was different. The connection she felt with Liam was undeniable, and part of her wanted to shout it from the rooftops, but the other part of her still felt a little unsure. Taking a deep breath, Emma typed back, "It's going great, but I don't know, Jenny. I'm starting to feel like I'm falling for him, and I'm scared." She hesitated for a moment before sending the message, feeling the weight of her words as they left her fingers. She had always been independent, always had control of her emotions, but with Liam, it was different. She felt things she hadn't felt in a long time, and it made her both happy and terrified at the same time. Jenny's reply came almost instantly. "Emma, you deserve this. You deserve someone who sees you for who you really are and who values you. Don't let fear stop you from being happy. Just take it, one step at a time." Emma smiled at Jenny's encouraging words. She knew her friend was right. Maybe it was time to stop second-guessing herself. She had been afraid to open her heart, but maybe Liam was the person who could prove to her that love could be real, even for someone like her. The next day, Emma met Liam for lunch at a small cafe they had discovered together. As usual, they fell into easy conversation, the chemistry between them undeniable. But this time, as they talked, Emma found herself looking at him differently. He wasn't just a man she was dating. He was someone she could see a future with, someone who made her feel seen and heard. When their conversation turned to their future plans, Emma couldn't help but ask the question that had been swirling in her mind for weeks. "Liam, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" she asked, her voice steady but curious. Liam paused, looking at her with a thoughtful expression. "That's a good question," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I've been so focused on building my business and keeping things going that I haven't thought about much beyond that. But I do know one thing. I want to have someone to share it with. Someone who's not just interested in the success, but in the person I am. Someone who's real." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure if he meant what she thought he meant, but the way he looked at her made her feel like it was all falling into place. She took a deep breath, the words that had been sitting on the tip of her tongue for so long finally making their way to the surface. "I feel the same way," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been so scared of letting someone in, but with you, it feels different. You make me feel like I can trust again." Liam's expression softened, his eyes full of warmth as he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Emma, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not just here for the good times. I want to be here for the hard times too. I want to be the person you can count on." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. It wasn't just words, it was the truth, and Emma could feel it deep in her bones. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in that moment, she knew that this was real. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had found someone who truly understood her, someone who was willing to take the journey with her, no matter what came their way. After lunch, they walked together through the city, the bustling streets around them fading as they lost themselves in their own little world. Liam was talking about a new project he was working on, but Emma found herself drifting in and out of his words, caught up in the warmth of his presence. She realized that she didn't need to have all the answers right now. All she needed was to take things one step at a time, to trust the process, and to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was the real thing. As they parted ways that evening, Liam kissed her on the cheek, his touch gentle but full of meaning. "Good night, Emma. I'll see you soon." "Good night, Liam," she replied, her heart fluttering in her chest. Walking back to her apartment, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what might come. She was ready to take that next step with Liam, ready to see where this beautiful, unpredictable journey would lead. The following weeks felt like a dream for Emma. Every moment spent with Liam seemed to solidify the connection between them. And yet, as much as she felt a sense of belonging with him, there was still a voice inside her head that questioned everything. It wasn't that she didn't believe in Liam or their relationship. It was the weight of her past, the memories of heartbreak and disappointment that she couldn't shake. She had allowed herself to believe in love before, only to have it slip through her fingers. Could she really trust herself to make the right choice this time? As they spent more time together, their bond deepened. Liam had become a constant presence in her life, and it felt good, too good. They went on more spontaneous dates, spent evenings in quiet conversation, and shared laughs that felt effortless. But with each passing day, Emma felt herself becoming more vulnerable, more exposed. She realized how much she had started to depend on Liam, how his presence had become a source of comfort, and how, without meaning to, she had allowed herself to fall. One afternoon, as they walked through the city's park, Emma couldn't help but notice the way Liam looked at her. There was something in his gaze, something that made her heart race, something that made her feel like she was the only person in the world that mattered to him. But even in that moment, when everything seemed perfect, a small part of her hesitated. Was this really what she wanted? Was she ready for the kind of commitment that Liam seemed to be offering? They stopped by a bench near the lake, and as they sat down, Liam turned to her with a serious look in his eyes. "Emma," he began, his voice soft yet steady, "I need to tell you something." Emma's heart skipped a beat. There was a moment of silence before she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is it, Liam?" He took a deep breath before continuing. "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about where we're headed, and I want you to know that I'm in this for real. I'm not just here for the good times, Emma. I'm here for the hard times too. I want to be with you, not just in the fun moments, but in all the moments. I want to build something with you. His words hit her like a wave, crashing over her with an intensity that left her breathless. She looked at him, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt, but all she saw was sincerity, honesty. He meant every word. She could feel it in the way he held her gaze, the way his hand gently brushed against hers. For a moment, Emma felt her world slow down. She had been so afraid of being vulnerable, of letting someone in, but in that moment, she realized that Liam had already broken down the walls she had built around herself. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop holding back. I'm scared, Liam, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Scared of getting hurt, scared of opening up, of trusting someone with everything I've worked so hard to protect. I don't know if I can do this. Liam reached over, cupping her face gently with his hand. I know you're scared, Emma. I'm scared too. But I'm willing to take that risk with you, because I believe in us. I believe in what we have. And I'm not going anywhere. Emma felt her heart swell in her chest, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel hopeful. She had spent so much of her life protecting herself, guarding her heart from the possibility of disappointment. But now, with Liam, she was starting to see that maybe love didn't have to be a gamble. Maybe it was worth the risk. I want to try, Liam, she whispered, her eyes welling up with tears. I want to see where this goes. I want to be with you. Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up as he pulled her into a gentle embrace. That's all I need to hear, Emma. We'll take it one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just us, together. They sat there for a while, watching the sun begin to set over the lake, the sky painted with hues of pink and orange. Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, with the person she was meant to be with. For the first time in a long time, she felt like the future was something to look forward to, not something to fear. The next few days passed in a blur of shared moments and quiet conversations. Emma found herself feeling more at ease with each passing day, more comfortable in her own skin, and more connected to Liam. They were learning about each other in new ways, and with each conversation, each touch, Emma felt her love for him grow stronger. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, an unexpected phone call shattered the calm. Emma's phone rang one evening as she and Liam were having dinner, and when she saw the caller ID, her stomach dropped. It was her mother. She excused herself from the table, stepping out onto the balcony to take the call. Mom, she said, her voice tight with concern. Emma, honey, I need you to come home. There's been some trouble with the house, and I could really use your help. Emma's heart sank. She knew that her family wasn't in the best financial situation, but she had never expected something like this to happen. What kind of trouble? She asked, her voice trembling. We're going to lose the house, Emma. I've been trying to keep everything together, but it's just too much. I don't know what to do. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she listened to her mother's voice break with emotion. She felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her, the fear, the helplessness. She knew what this meant. It meant that everything she had worked for, everything she had built, was at risk of falling apart. She hung up the phone, her hands shaking, and turned to find Liam standing behind her, his expression filled with concern. Emma, what's wrong? Without saying a word, she collapsed into his arms, tears streaming down her face. Liam held her tightly, offering her comfort and reassurance, as if in that moment, he was the one who could protect her from everything. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she knew she wasn't alone. The days that followed felt like a blur for Emma. The weight of her family's financial crisis was heavy on her shoulders, and the uncertainty of how to handle it all weighed her down. She had always been independent, but this time, the burden felt too big to carry alone. Liam had been her constant support, always by her side, but she still felt the pull of responsibility, the fear of what could happen if she didn't figure it out. Her mother's voice kept echoing in her head, her words full of worry, and Emma knew that she had to do something to save her family, to protect the only home they had left. One afternoon, as Emma sat at her kitchen table, going over bills and trying to make sense of the situation, Liam showed up at her door. She hadn't expected him, but when she opened the door, he was standing there, his face full of concern and warmth. Hey, Liam said softly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. How are you holding up? Emma smiled faintly, but the exhaustion in her eyes was impossible to hide. I don't know, Liam. It's a mess. I've been trying to figure out how to help my mom, but it feels like everything is falling apart. Liam walked over to her and sat down next to her, his hand gently brushing against hers. You don't have to do this alone, Emma, he said, his voice full of reassurance. I'm here for you, whatever you need. Emma's heart swelled at his words. She had never felt so supported, so understood, but a part of her still resisted. She wasn't used to leaning on anyone, especially someone who had his own life and priorities. But as she looked at Liam, she realized that he wasn't just offering help out of obligation. He cared about her. He truly cared. I don't know what to do, Emma whispered, her voice breaking. I can't lose the house, and I don't want to let my mom down. Liam looked at her with such tenderness that it took Emma by surprise. Emma, you're not going to lose the house. You're not going to let anyone down. I know this is hard, but we'll figure it out together. He paused for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. If you need anything, if there's anything I can do to help, I'm here. No questions, no pressure. Just, let me help. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him, her heart full of gratitude and a mix of emotions she couldn't quite place. She had never been one to accept help so easily, but with Liam, it felt different. Maybe it was time to let go of the fear of being vulnerable. Maybe it was time to trust, truly trust, that someone else could carry part of the weight. For the next few days, Liam helped Emma with everything. He went with her to meet with her mother, sat through the difficult conversations with the bank, and worked through every possible option to save the house. Emma couldn't believe how much he was doing for her, how much he believed in her, even when she wasn't sure she could believe in herself. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings and paperwork, Emma collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. Liam sat next to her, his hand on her shoulder, offering comfort without saying a word. You've done more than I ever expected, Emma said quietly, her voice full of emotion. I don't know how to thank you. Liam looked at her, his eyes soft. You don't have to thank me, Emma. I care about you. That's all that matters. And in that moment, Emma knew that everything was going to be okay. She didn't have all the answers yet, but with Liam by her side, she knew they would figure it out. She wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. A few days later, they received good news. After some negotiations and a little bit of luck, they were able to secure a loan that would save the house. Emma couldn't believe it. It felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She hugged Liam tightly, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you, Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Liam smiled, holding her close. You would have figured it out, Emma. You're stronger than you think. But I'm glad I could be here for you. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma realized that this was more than just about saving a house. It was about finding someone who would stand by her side, no matter what. Someone who believed in her, who cared about her dreams and her fears. Someone who saw her for who she truly was. And in that moment, Emma knew that this was only the beginning. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. Because together, they were stronger than anything that could come their way. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, Emma felt ready to face it head on. With Liam by her side, there was nothing she couldn't overcome.